Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today is the day 6 for our Fortigate firewall training series. In this video, I'll be covering how we can do initial setup for Fortigate firewall. So before we set up the firewall, we need to understand what are the deployments mode that are available with Fortigate firewall. Then we'll understand how we can configure our network interface, like how we can assign an IP address, how the DSCP will work. Those things we will be covering. Also, we'll be covering how to configure a policy as well as how we can configure a path for internet access for the inside users. And also I'll be explaining you about the connectivity between your EVNG Fortigate firewall to your local machine and the internet, how it is connectivity is. So these are very helpful for the real-time purpose, as well as this one is helpful for your lab. So I'll request you to please watch this video till the end so that you can understand these points. You can do it in your lab as well as you can use it in your real-time environment as well. So I'll request you to please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss a video from me. So without any further delay, let's get started. So friends, before we do a initial setup for Fortigate firewall, let's understand what are the modes of deployment which is available with the Fortigate firewall. Okay, so the first mode is transparent mode, the second mode is NAT mode. So let's understand transparent mode with the help of this diagram. So when you deploy Fortigate in transparent mode, what exactly happens is all the interfaces of Fortigate firewall becomes L2. Okay, so you don't need to give any IP address. So there is no IP address that you need to configure. Only IP address which you need to configure is MGMT, so that you can access the Fortigate firewall, right? So there will be no routing change as well. Okay, so basically what happens is, let's suppose you have a PC, okay, which is internal to organization, and these PCs will be connected to some L2 switches, and this again connects to L3 switch, and then it is connected to our router, then this router is connected to internet. Now as this area calls a perimeter area, right? In this place you can put your Fortigate firewall in transparent mode. So what happens is, the inbound traffic which is coming from outside, which is like from untrusted zone, it is coming, and from trusted zone the traffic is going, the firewall can inspect it in a stealth mode. So what does it mean is, like in transparent mode, as it is converting, the ports are getting converted to L2, there will be no IP address. So nobody knows that there is a firewall in between. Only the network administrator who has the MGMT IP address, the management IP address, knows that there is a firewall and it is enforcing the policies which is set by the IT security rule of the company. So basically, if I talk about from the network perspective, there will be no change, right? Because there is no IP address, so there will be no change. Only the policy will be enforced, right? For all inbound and outbound connections. So friends, now if I talk about NAT mode, so NAT mode, when we configure NAT mode, all the interface will become L3 and you can do routing, and basically the major implementation will be in the NAT mode only, and it you can use the maximum benefit from the Fortigate when you configure as a NAT mode. Okay, so in today's lab we'll be using NAT mode, and in upcoming videos I'll be explaining about transparent mode in very detailed manner. Okay, so what are the things that we can do with the transparent mode and what are the things we cannot do with the transparent mode, I'll be covering in the upcoming videos. Okay, so let's get into the lab and we'll start configuring the policies and WAN interface and all those things. Okay, So friends, let's get into the lab. We'll configure the network interface, configuration of the policy, pad configuration, as well as the connectivity of our EVNG devices with the local machine. Okay, so we'll move on to the lab. Okay, it's very simple lab that I have taken to understand the initial setup. So basically in major implementation, that what I have done for small branches and all. So in that branch there will be like maybe some department. So let's say I take two PCs. So let's say this is VLAN 10 and this is VLAN 20. This will be connected to a switch, and this switch is again connected to our firewall, and this firewall will be connected to internet, where we'll do our policy and URL filtering, app control, everything. Okay, as this is very small setup, then that is the reason we are just taking the firewall. It is doing policy as well as your routing as well. Okay, but in case if you have like large campus, in that case we'll put firewall the router where the internet is getting terminated, because we'll do all the policy work will be done by this firewall, and the routing stuffs will be done by the router itself. Okay, so we'll not put all the burdens in large network, will not put all the burdens to the firewall, because if we do that, then the performance will be compromised. So in most of the cases for the branch, like the small branches will have this kind of setup, like there will be PC, switches and firewall, and that it will be connected. So let's suppose you have got one new firewall. So in that case, what you are going to do is, so basically what we are going to do is, first of all, we'll take the GUI access of the firewall. So to do that, first of all, we have to configure the ports, and to that port we'll connect our PC, and then we'll try to access it. So let's say we have got a new device, and we'll log in as console first. Okay, so we'll have a console cable and we'll try to access console first. As you can see, we have got the console, and first of all we have to configure the username. So by default the username is admin and there is no password, so it will ask you to change the password. Okay, so we'll just change password. Okay, so once you are done, it will prompt you with welcome, and you will get the login screen. Okay, and then you have to configure the interface. Okay, so config system interface, and what you want to edit the port number. So we are connected to port number 4, so we'll just go on 4. Okay, and then show will tell you what exactly inside that interface, like in that interface, like in port number 4, what are the configuration that are there. So you are seeing the configuration per port number 4. So what you have to do is set mode as static, because as we have not configured the DHCP on this port number, like this PC is not working as a DHCP server. So that is the reason we are just changing the port status, port mode as static, and then set IP address. So IP 192.168.202.150. Okay, and the subnet mask. Okay, now what we have to do is we need to access it. So we need to give some management access as well. So HTTP, I have showed like in my last video that sometime HTTP will not work, so HTTPS will not work, so we'll allow HTTP SSH ping to test whether the device is alive or not, and also we'll give management as well. I'll tell you about the management later, not in this series, but yeah, I'll mention it. And once you do end, it will get activated, your configuration gets saved, right? Okay, so from my PC. This is our PC. So from here I'll try to access 192.168.202.150. Okay, now we are able to access. So we'll put the username and password. Okay, now it says perform the following action. So specify the host name, change the password, we have already done it. Then dashboard setup and upgrade firmware. So we don't need to do it right now, we'll do it later. As this is a FortiOS 7.0, it will come with your video, you don't need to see right now. Okay, now here this is our dashboard. So I'll talk about dashboard little bit just now. Okay, so here we are seeing the status of the device, whatever the status, like the system information, the license information, what is the utilization. It is related to the device itself, like the status of the device. Okay, now if you want to check the security, so host scanning, lot of threat vulnerabilities, all those things, it is related to security. Network, this is the routing, SSL, VPN, DHCP, IPsec, all those things. User information, now here signaling, like this one I'll talk about later. If you want to add something, you can add over here as well. Okay, now here it will show you which source is utilizing more than application, website, all those things. Okay, this is all related to your dashboard, this whole area. Okay, now once you are done with this, you come to network. Okay, and we'll go to interface, and here we are going to configure the interface, right? So first of all, we'll configure the internet port number. So the port 2 is connected to the internet, so first we will configure port 2. So basically what happens is, like in the branch or in the small sites, we'll take a broadband connection. Okay, so broadband connection will get a DHCP IP address from ISP, basically, because this is cheap. Okay, once you apply for a public IP address, it will be little costly because you need to pay the rent for public IP address, right? So now what happens is you need to select over here as a DHCP. Okay, and this option, as you are seeing, retrieve gateway from the server. So basically what happens is, let's suppose I get an IP address for 10.1.1.1 from DHCP. Okay, this is my IP address, and 255.255.255.0/ okay, so this is our subnet mask. Okay, and we have got 10.1.1.254 as a gateway. So basically it retrieves the gateway information from the server. Okay, now once you go and try to give a static route means the default route, because I want to access the internet, so I'll give a default route, and it retrieves the IP address, and it will give you an option what should be the default gateway for this. Okay, as you are not sure what would be the gateway for this, it retrieves and give you. I'll show you how it will be. Okay, so I'll just rub this out, and as DHCP click OK, and I suppose to get the IP address, it is getting on initialization connecting. I suppose to get an IP address now. Yeah, we have got the IP address, DNS, all those informations. Okay, now we'll go to static route and give a default route. Okay, so 0.0 gateway, and we'll give port number 2. Okay, as once we click dynamic, it gives you the IP address of the gateway, what he has got it from the DHCP server. Okay, so once you click OK, now your default route is pointing to the default gateway where you can go on internet. Okay, So now you can check as well whether you have reachability to internet or not. Click on CLI console and execute ping 8.8.8.8. Okay, so we are able to ping the internet, so we have reachability towards internet, so our default route is correct. Okay, so this part is already finished. We have to configure the port 0 now, port 1. Okay, so we'll go to interface. Okay, and we have go to port 1 and we'll configure manually. So let's say 10.1.1.1 /24. Okay, 10, and we are done. Okay, so the configuration of the port is done. We don't need to do any commit, we just need to click OK. That's all. Okay, now we are done with the network part. We'll move further and we'll go to the policy. Okay, now we'll go to firewall policy. Now we'll create a new policy. Okay, we just name it for outbound. Okay, the incoming interface will be port 1 because it is coming from port 1, and it will be going to port 2. We are going port 2. Okay, and source I'm just selecting as all, destination as all, and services is also all. Okay, accepting. The action should be inspection mode. I'll come on the details of inspection mode and other details later in upcoming videos. Okay, now we are doing NAT. Okay, so yeah, on the outgoing interface, this is called PAT over here. So this is PAT. Okay, here we are just doing our default. Okay, there's no SSL inspection, and we'll generate a log. Okay, so to see whether this, like, our traffic is hitting to this policy or not. So we are done with the policy, we are done with the NAT, we are done with the interface configuration. Now we'll go to our test PC and we'll try to check. Okay, so what is the IP address that we are getting over here, like what we have configured? 10.10.1. Okay, let's try to ping our gateway. So ping 10.1.1.10. Okay, we are able to ping. Okay, now we'll try to access the internet and we'll see whether we are able to access or not. Okay, so we'll go to Google Chrome and we'll try to access google.com. Okay, as you can see, we are able to access the google.com, and we'll check the logs over here whether we are hitting to the correct policy or not. Yeah, as we are hitting to the correct policy, which is outbound. Firewall rule is outbound. Okay, accepted. So this is how we configure for a simple internet. So friends, let me explain about the network, like the connectivity from our Eve machine to our local PC. Okay, so basically what happens is, I'll show you the network type. So we have got lot of network type, but in EVE-NG community version, it starts from management to cloud 9. But if you are a pro, then you'll get internal, private, and NAT. Okay, so I'm just explaining about management, cloud 0. In this case, what happens is, this will be actually directly connected to your local machine. So this is our local PC, and this network is DHCP enabled. So let's say this is port number 3. Okay, you are connected to port number 3. In that case, if this port is DHCP enabled, it gets the IP address, and you will be connected directly to your local machine, and you will be able to access from your browser this Fortigate, right? So how it will be, I'll just show you. Okay, so as you can see here, I have a cloud 0, and this cloud 0 is basically connected like this. it is connected to NAT interface, okay, and DHCP is also enabled over here. It provides an IP address, but I have chosen to give a static IP address. So what I did is I have given a static IP address in the same IP range what we have right now. See, the same range that I have given over here as well. Okay, so we'll have a connectivity from your local machine to the firewall. Okay, and if you are using Pro version, I'll explain you about the other type. I'll just cancel this. I'll just delete this one. Okay, I'll explain about the NAT one. Okay, so if you are using, okay, so in NAT what happens is, this is a EVE-NG DHCP server. Okay, so your Fortigate will be connected to your EVE-NG. It is internal to EVE-NG. EVE-NG DHCP server. And you'll get from this DHCP server, you'll get 172 something, some IP address. Okay. Now this DHCP server again connects to your VM net 8, what I have showed you. Okay, and this is again will be connected to local PC. Okay, so how it will be, like in this case, like in this network type, this NAT network type, you'll not be able to access the devices, but you will be able to access the internet. Here in Cloud 0, you are directly connected to internet. Okay, like you are directly connected to your local machine, right? But here you are not directly connected. You are going through DHCP server. Okay, so basically what happens is, I'll show you. I just showed you the network type over here, this NAT one, the VM8. So your EVE-NG device will connected to your EVE-NG DHCP server, and this DHCP server will connected to this interface, so the VNet, which is connected to our local. So there is one new DHCP server that gets generated over here. Okay, so this is how, why I have chosen this. I'll explain you now. Okay, so basically if I chosen both the network as Cloud 0, okay, so this is Cloud 0, okay, and this is Cloud 0, then in that case this port number and this port number will have the same subnet IP address. They will not be allowed because this is L3 interface and this is L3. So it will be an overlapping network, right? So it will not work. That is the reason I have taken this one as a Cloud 0 and this one as a NAT. Okay, so this is how the connectivity is from your EVE-NG devices to your local machine. Okay, and this is what I wanted to cover in this video. If you have liked it, or if you have like increased your knowledge, I'll highly recommend you to please like this video or please do a comment. If you have any suggestion regarding my video, please put it on the comment, or you can send me an email, or you can send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll request you to please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss a video from me. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.